All right. Welcome back, listeners and bookworms. Today we have a very special guest. We've been planning this for thousands of seconds. We have Cosmere in miniature. Welcome.
Hello.
Welcome. Would you prefer me to call you Cosmere in miniature, or would you? It does say Josh.
You can call me Josh. Cosmere miniature is a mouthful, I know.
Yeah. Yeah. I will likely call you Josh.
That'll work.
We have Josh on today. Griff is unable to join us because of biological reasons involving infections and waging wars in his body. I hope he fights the cold off.
Yes, all the good vibes.
All the good vibes. And he better be better by tomorrow when we record another collaboration with a different set of people. No, I'm just kidding. That's not a threat. That's definitely not. He's going to be fine. He's going to use that inane healing ability. Wait, that's not the right. Inherent healing ability that bodies have called the immune system, and it's going to be great. So,
yes.
Listener, you might be wondering, who is Josh? Why is he here? Who are we? What are we doing? Well, we're going to discuss the Cosmere RPG. Josh here has put out the most comprehensive video I've seen on the offerings in the Kickstarter. The link to that will be hopefully somewhere floating. If not, if I can't figure that out because I'm not the smartest man, then it will definitely be in the description. During this conversation, if you're like, what are they talking about? Go watch that, and it's going to tell you everything you need. He does a wonderful analysis of why he chose what he chose to back. I left a comment on that video saying why I backed what I chose to back. So his channel, painting tutorials. I was watching the Chasm Fiend one again earlier today. I really liked the painting scheme you had. I enjoyed seeing your you put together a Chasm Fiend previous to the
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, is that behind you?
Yeah. So, yeah, we can start with that one. I built this. If you're on YouTube, you can see it right now.
Yeah.
I built this before the I knew about the Stormlight Kickstarter, like the Stormlight minis, right?
Yeah.
I was like, I want to make one of these for my Warhammer games, and so I made this.
It's so cool.
Along with my Alethi army that is based off of their other miniatures, but
that's sick.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
a lot of work too.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I'll put that right there.
So this video, your Chasm Fiend video, the thumbnail is the Chasm Fiend painted. I think you chose a wonderful color scheme. Mine is sitting over here on the shelf in the box still because I have moderate talent at painting, but what I typically find for myself is that I need a full, like, uninterrupted stretch to paint anything. So I've actually, from the previous Brotherwise Kickstarter, I've only painted Zellion.
There you go.
That was mainly because putting this Cosmere shelf behind me together, I really wanted something in front of Sunlit Man. And that's why the base is red, so that it matches the book.
Yes.
And so that's the only mini I've painted so far. More to come, I'm sure.
More to come. You got to get rid of that pile of shame, as we call it in the Warhammer community.
Yep. And I don't even want to look over. I am looking over at the boxes. Man, I don't.
What? There's my pile of shame. It's on display right now. So.
Yep, it is. Yeah. Nice. Mine are all behind me for the Cosmere ones. They're all in their boxes.
Yes.
I got you, Toms. You also did Kaladin and Glowing Shardplate.
I did.
I am going to watch that video when I do mine because I want that same effect. Is brilliant. You also have some discussions in general, I think, and then you also do comparisons. Specifically, what I was mentioning before, you compared a lot of the Kickstarter, or all of the Kickstarter offerings. You also have a review of the previous Brotherwise Kickstarter, which is where the Chasm Fiend is, those are available through this Kickstarter as add-ons. They're also available through the Dragonsteel store. So, without spoiling too much more of what we're about to talk about and going out of order, we will follow the outline because I prepared. Okay, but Josh, I want to give you some time. Talk to our listeners. Tell them why you're here, why you're important.
Sure. I first of all, thank you, Alex, for bringing me on the podcast, the channel. I appreciate reaching out on one of my videos. I was super stoked when I saw it. I was like, someone wants to talk to me about what I'm doing. Like, it's interesting making content on YouTube. I'm sure you know, it's like you're talking out to a void, and all of a sudden people start coming and being like interacting with you. It's a very surreal experience. So really cool to be on the video call with you right now. But anyway, to your question of why I'm here and why I'm my channel name is Cosmere in Miniature. It's gone through a few different channel names. I've settled on this one for now. It may change in the future. I don't know. But it kind of describes what my goal is. And my goal of my channel is to bring the way I label it on my YouTube description is bringing the Cosmere to life through little toy soldiers. I grew up playing Warhammer. If you've heard of that, that's where you paint little toy figurines and then you roll dice on a tabletop. You use measuring like rulers and stuff, and you have rules to see what damage you do to other units. So I grew up playing that, and when I first got into the Cosmere was through Mistborn, and then I got into the Stormlight Archive. I originally first read Brandon Sanderson when I was finishing the Wheel of Time series for the first time. So I got to book 14 or whatever the last book was, where the last battle was like half the book.
Right.
And Brandon, like, I was just so amazed how Brandon brought everything together at the end. And I was like, I got to check out this author. Excellent. And so I started reading his stuff. And so when I started reading Stormlight, that was like, I think I was like a senior in high school. Okay. And then my freshman year of college. And so like very pivotal moments in my life, I was reading the Stormlight Archive. So that was my first exposure to it. And I was very excited about it. And so I decided a few years ago to be like, hey, I want to mix my love of the Cosmere and especially Stormlight Archive with Warhammer. And so I made my own Alethi army to play Warhammer games with. I actually took my army to a local tournament, and I got 7th place. I was very excited about my 7th place. It was so cool to see all my Alethi out there, and I even had Adolin out there as a Stormcast Eternal that I modified.
That's really
anyway. I have a video about that if you want to go look at how I did that a few years ago. But starting to that, and then when the Kickstarter came out for the Stormlight Minis, I was very excited, and I was like, hey, as a mediocre painter at best, one of my friends taught me a few tips that really escalated my mediocrity to advanced mediocrity of painting. And so I was like, I want to help all these people who are getting these minis for the first time they've ever painted before. There's a few things I wanted them to know. And so I started making YouTube tutorials and just taking the models one at a time and just painting through them. And then I've kind of I'm trying to expand that out into talking about the RPG, right? Miniatures are coming in. We're getting new minis. Let's talk about the RPG, how that relates. And I think my next project, the next thing I want to get into is diorama making of like using these minis as centerpieces for a diorama of some kind and adding it to my shelf back here.
That's going to be so sick to see. I can't wait.
Yes, I'm excited.
So we are going to talk about, in this video, we're going to talk about the success of the Kickstarter. We're going to specifically talk about the miniatures. We'll talk about the RPG element. We'll talk about stretch goals now that all of them have been revealed. Then we'll go into fulfillment. And I did add a section looking forward where we'll discuss our final thoughts because that's important. I think. So to start out, the Kickstarter success. You probably, if you're watching this video, you probably know. You probably know it's a success. If you don't, welcome. Please feel free to watch all of our other videos, especially if you've read most of the other Cosmere books. If you haven't read a lot of the Cosmere, you might want to start.
Yes.
So you're here because you want to know more about the Kickstarter. You want to know our thoughts. Well, let's dive into some statistics here, some stats. So as of today, which is Friday the 13th of September, spooky
day.
Yeah, they've raised over $15 million, which is insane. They are the third highest Kickstarter of all time, right? And the first highest game Kickstarter.
Yeah, they're the first highest game of all time, and then the third highest of all time.
Congrats to the Brotherwise team. They have 55,000 backers, which is a lot of logistics.
That's a lot of people.
That's a mind-blowing amount of people. I'm sure I've been in the presence of 55,000 people at like a Taylor Swift concert. That's a lot of people. Even if they just back the PDF. I mean, that's great. That's a solid start for the Cosmere RPG, the living RPG. So how, looking at it now, where we're in this period where people can still pledge, but it's pretty much, it's going to slow down. It's probably not going to cross another million. It might, especially when Backerkit pops up. What's your take on the success here, especially compared to the previous Brotherwise Kickstarter?
Yeah, I'm not surprised at the success of it. Number one, because an RPG is much more approachable to people than miniatures. From my experience, miniatures are a very niche community. Like Warhammer is probably the biggest one out there. And so when it was just the minis, I knew it was like, okay, there's going to be lots of the miniature enthusiasts who'll be there, but there's not many of us out there who are miniature enthusiasts and Stormlight Archive people.
Right.
So that market was a lot smaller. And so coming into this RPG Kickstarter, I'm like, okay, the RPG is much broader because you don't need miniatures to play the RPG, right? With wargaming, you need the minis, you need to paint the minis. It's a huge barrier to entry, but the RPG is you pay, what is it, $60 for the PDFs or something like that, and you can play the game. And so it's a lot more approachable to people, from my opinion. So I'm not surprised. And especially that they are teamed up with Dragonsteel to do fulfillment. I think that added a lot of a morale boost, for lack of a better term, to those who backed the first Kickstarter, because we were delayed months and months and months.
Oh boy, that was, I mean, if you go back and listen to our episodes, which I'll shill our previous episodes. They're not the best quality.
Do it.
You can, if you go back and just listen to the first 5 to 10 minutes of every episode from last year, because we do the updates every week, or as often as we could record. It was the miniatures campaign, and then the White Sand campaign from Dynamite Entertainment. Those were clogging our feed at the beginning, along with the Sanderson, the Year of Sanderson stuff for a while there. But you can watch it in real time. In fact, I think I might go make a super cut.
You should do it.
If I have the time, I might go make a super cut of all the updates. But yeah, the fulfillment with Dragonsteel, absolutely brilliant move for both Brotherwise and Dragonsteel.
Yes.
When I can't imagine the logistics of it. Thankfully, I don't have to. But Dragonsteel, I imagine, wants to keep on as many workers as possible. And after a massive The Year of Sanderson, like, having all the space to do this, like, it just makes sense. They get to keep the workers.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
And
gets fulfillment.
Yes, because what Brotherwise in the first Kickstarter they did was using Easy Ship or something. I don't know what it was. It's a hiss and a byword nowadays. But looking at it, I'm like, okay, Dragonsteel knows how to produce books.
Yep.
Most of this Kickstarter is books. Brotherwise knows how to produce games, and they had a huge learning curve with the Stormlight minis, so they're going to be much better prepared for this one. So it's like you gotta the Brotherwise team who has learned a lot, Dragonsteel who has a lot of experience behind them. I am not concerned whatsoever with fulfillment this time around.
Yeah, that was a big boon for this campaign, and then the story aspect. So the RPG is more approachable than just minis, and then the world guides and even straight out buying the campaign to read through it draws even more people.
Yep,
they're hitting every target demographic of nerd here. Like, what more could you ask for other than like complicated math problems that just tickle one type of nerd's brain?
But I'm sure they're in there. I mean, you have RPG crunchy. Johnny did say there's some crunchiness in there, so I'm looking forward to the crunchiness.
Crunchy, but yeah, I was. We'll get to this later with the virtual components. So I was playing around on Demiplane earlier, and there seemed to be a little bit more crunch than I was expecting. So that was nice. But let's start talking about the miniatures here. So when the campaign launched on August 6th, right? They were like, we have 16 new minis for you, and that was a lie, because of course stretch goals.
Surprise! They have more.
Yeah, who could have seen that coming? Not me.
Not me.
But actually, I'm pleasantly surprised by the variety. Right?
Yeah.
So I believe in one of their updates or in one of the videos, they specifically mentioned these miniatures play into the campaign for the Stonewalkers campaign.
Yeah.
They have a variety of, what's the word I'm looking for? Basic characters that
and NPCs, non-playable character. Yeah.
Some NPCs. They have some enemies. Obviously, they've got the white spines. They've got various fused, which I don't know if you played any of the beta testing or alpha testing of the RPG.
I did some. Well, I haven't played the beta testing yet. I was planning to do that in the next couple of weeks here locally.
Sure. So you got to do some alpha?
No, I tried to sign up for it, but they didn't like me at that time. I don't think they know who I am.
That's rude of them.
That is rude of them.
Come on, Brotherwise. So I got into it, not to
nice. Hey, okay, Alex, fine.
My name is in the book. No. My name's in the book.
It's in the book. That's pretty impressive, man. That's great.
No, actually, and I tried to get as many people in real life as I could to play with me, so that they could get access to the feedback form, so that they could also be in the book. So I got 7 people plus me.
Wow. Look at you influencing. You're an influencer.
I don't. Oh, wow.
I can't disagree with that now.
That's a reality check right there. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I'm going to go vomit after the, no. I am subtly trying to influence you, listener, to back this campaign. To develop a love of miniatures that you didn't know was secretly thousands of years underneath your surface.
I am shamelessly saying everyone needs to love miniatures. They're fantastic.
They really are a lot of fun, and the variety is crazy. I'm gonna rep a local company. It's a small little thing. You probably have heard of them. I live really close to Reaper.
Okay.
The Reaper paints and Reaper miniatures. They paint ReaperCon in Denton, Texas, and I'm in North Texas. And I went to ReaperCon a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Which apparently also Jancy is it Jancy Patterson who
That
is
name
writing?
sounds familiar.
I think she's writing the next bit of, or she's writing the next set of Skyward books.
Oh yeah, she's
so
teamed up. Yep.
Yeah. This is a tangent. I probably, I don't know if I should have forewarned you about tangents. Apparently,
Hey,
I'm the
I've
problem.
I've listened. I've been listening to your Wind and Truth readings, and yes, tangents do occur. So I am prepared, Alex. I am prepared.
Good. I'm the problem. So her husband is a professional miniature painter.
Really?
Yeah, and he goes to ReaperCon. So at
That's
some
great.
point, I was in a building with somebody whose wife writes books with Sanderson, which is not that big of a flex because I got to briefly talk to Sanderson last Dragonsteel.
Whoa.
Yeah, I've mentioned it in a previous episode, but now that we have a lot more listeners, I'll go ahead and tell the story now because you can never have too many tangents.
I love it. I want to hear it.
Class. So I got the Lightning signing, which there are so many people going to. Are you going to Dragonsteel Nexus this year?
I'm not. I'm too far away. I'm planning to figure it out one year, but not this year.
Nice. Okay. Let me know if you ever need help logistically or anything.
Okay.
So we have a booth. We had a booth last year. We have a booth this year. If you are an exhibitor, you get almost all the same perks as a general admission badge. So your name is entered into the drawings for signings. There are so many people that what they did was they had a smaller set of people that were getting the 3 signed books plus a personalized message, and then like you get to talk to Sanderson for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get that. My friend who was going with us for the first time, he got that. So Alex, which sounds weird for me to say because I'm also Alex. Alex, I'm still envious of you. He also got in the Magic draft, and Sanderson sat next to him. Anyways, tangents. Lightning signing. I got the Lightning signing. And if you don't know, and listeners, if you don't know, if you meet Sanderson in cosplay, and by meet, you go to a signing or you get to ask him a question at the Q&As, if you are in cosplay, you get a special pin.
Mm-hmm. I've heard about this.
Away. So it's for this last few years, it's been Shalosh. It's been a Shalosh pin. Now, I was not in cosplay, but my wife was. But she didn't get a ticket to meet Sanderson and have him sign something. And I did. She, and you can go find pictures of this somewhere. I believe she posted them to Reddit around the time of the con last year. She dressed up as Shalon, but not the typical, and I promise there's a point to this story. It's funny, I promise. Not the typical blue Hava dress like from Way of Kings.
Yeah.
She chose the miniature design. She based her cosplay off of the larger miniature or the larger you might see over here
with her like the trousers and the tunic kind of flaring out. Yeah,
exactly. Yes. So she made an immaculate cosplay of that.
Yeah.
And so I took Tress of the Emerald Sea to go get it signed by Sanderson, and I put on her jacket and her satchel.
There we go.
So Sanderson comes around the line, and he's talking to like every other person because you're not allowed to ask questions. You just hold the book out for him to sign.
Yeah.
Which is wonderful as it is. But so he's talking to every other person, and the person 2 down from me who just got his book signed, he had him sign a specific chapter, I think in Rhythm of War, and the dude goes, I just wrote my dissertation for my music PhD based on this chapter.
Whoa.
And Sanderson was like, oh, that's cool. Something like that. And then he signs the lady next to me. Shout out to you if you know who you are. I know you were at our recording, our live recording there, and I don't remember your name, but you were very nice. You were a good line buddy. So he signs her stuff, and then he signs my Tress of the Emerald Sea, and he kind of pauses and waits for me to say something. And I look at him and I go, I'm wearing my wife's cosplay. And he looks me down and back up, and he goes, "That'll do. Let's get you a pen."
And that was the extent of your interaction with Sanderson.
It was brilliant. Yeah.
That'll do. Let's get you a pin.
Oh man. Oh.
Did he like pat you on the head after that?
You know, in a way, visually, yes.
Visually, like emotionally, you felt patted on the head.
I did. I even tried to be like, oh, I'm just Lopin trying out one of the women's uniforms or something like that. I didn't know what I was going to say, and that's what came out.
Hey, inspiration comes in many forms.
It does. So I have gone so far down trigonometry class with these tangents, I don't remember what started it.
I think we were talking about Dragonsteel Nexus. You have a booth.
Yep.
Should we just talk about minis?
We should probably talk about miniatures now.
Let's do it. 19 total minis.
19 total.
Some of them are fused.
Yes, they sure are. There should be a picture flashing. Not flashing. You don't have to worry if you have epilepsy, and we're not images.
There was no warning.
There was no warning. Maybe I might cut like this part before. I will be putting up pictures of the miniatures, and they're also something I keep forgetting. As one of, and we'll talk about this as one of the. Why am I forgetting
the stretch goals, the STLs?
That is exactly what I was going to say.
I got you, man.
Thank you. Yes. Receive STLs for every mini in the Stormlight miniature set. That's 19 STLs.
Yes.
Wow. Because for the previous campaign, they did 6.
I think it's 8. There's some different poses.
That's right. They did.
I was able to snag it.
Nice.
The files.
I need to fix my resin 3D printer. So
that's how I printed out my current project right now. I just wrapped up is painting each of the Alethi Princedoms colors. So I have 10 Alethi soldiers that I've painted up. I just got the glyphs on last night.
Nice.
So now I have to do the hard work of creating the video.
Right.
I have hours of content that I have to go through.
Oh boy. Yeah. That's why I record the way I do with Riverside.fm. We're not sponsored by them, but that does remind me, I did want to mention something. I mentioned a few chapter readings ago. If you are a crafty person and you don't have a lot of room in your domicile, you might consider the Dreambox 2. There's a link down in the description to a video by the channel Run to Radiance, which is aptly named, where the lovely Tanya talks you through the Dreambox and all of its options and how to put it together. My wife and I are considering getting a couple because we think that it's going to make our crafting hobbies that much more accessible, where we don't have to sort through piles and piles of stuff or have giant amounts of room, and instead, it's all in a cabinet. It's all in a neatly organized cabinet. So if that is something that tickles your brain, check out the link in the description for the Dreambox 2. This is not a paid promotion. It's just something I'm doing.
Well, I will say, I don't have it. I don't have the setup or whatever, but as a miniature paint, if you want to paint your miniatures and be motivated to do it, because it does take motivation to sit down and do it, having a dedicated space and an organized space really just escalates your ability to paint.
Absolutely.
So
Completely.
the more you paint, the better you get. So get a solid setup.
Absolutely. There's also one more thing I want to shill for at the moment, and I promise this is way more related. I'm going to encourage you, dear listener, to check out your local library, university, and or community college. So you're thinking, these people keep talking about STLs. What are those? STLs are files that allow 3D printers to print things. They're pretty neat. They require probably specific software, but the reason I'm shilling for universities, community colleges, and libraries is that nowadays especially if you're in a pretty moderate sized city, they are going to have 3D printers available for you to use. I work at a community college. We have a makerspace. You can come into the computer science lab and request that they print things for you. So the stretch goal, can you add it a la carte? Probably.
You can. You can add it for like $15, I believe.
$15 for 19 STLs is a steal. It's almost like STL stands for steel.
That was really good.
Thank you.
That was really good.
That's my one for the day.
That was good. Talking about STLs, I had to learn this. I know this sounds dumb, but I'm here for new people to the hobby. When you think of 3D printing, you might think of like FDM printing, which is taking plastic and then like filling it in. I don't know how it works, but it's on this plate or whatever. Resin printing is what you need for miniatures. You really can't get what you need with an FDM printer. So if you go to your local place and they're like, oh yeah, we have an FDM printer, be like, I don't want that. I want the resin printer.
That's true. If you don't have access to a resin printer, ask them to scale up the miniature and it might come out better in FDM.
Yes.
And then you can get some pretty big shard bearers and stuff that might be pretty cool looking at your desk and stuff, you know?
This is true.
Yeah. There's, because resin is stinky.
It is smelly. It's toxic. It's scary. Yeah, it scares me. I don't have one. I go to my friend's house to print stuff. So
yeah, that's fair. Yeah. No, I left resin sitting in the tank too long and I need to replace the board. But now that I got a garage, because my wife and I bought a house recently.
Congratulations.
They said nobody could do it, but we did it. Thank you. I now have a space once we clear it out tomorrow, clear out the garage. Anyways, so STLs, local libraries, universities, community colleges, people are there for you. They want to support you and their community.
Yes.
I want to talk about specifically details and the design. So first, let's make it a little compliment sandwich because you and I know where this is going. So I want what miniature do you think from this set looks the best, including stretch goals?
From this set, I really like the white spine, and I'm excited about the fused.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I feel like you can find pseudo shard bearers through other means, through other channels, but fused are very much a Stormlight Archive concept.
Yep. And
getting some really nice fused will be good. And I'm very excited to paint like the lightning Parshendi, whatever lightning form, and try to do some red glow on the arms and stuff. Ooh. So I have some ideas.
That's sick. My favorite is probably heavily skewed by the artwork that they released with it. My favorite is the altered one. The artwork that they'd put with it in the email for the update, or if you go to the update on the Kickstarter page, like somehow legitimately terrified me. I was like,
scary. They're freaky.
They're freaky. Like, I am not great at visualizing things in my head while I'm listening to the audiobook or reading. If you heard a weird sound, that was my dog Wolfie coughing. No apologies needed on my behalf, but he might apologize later. Like, I don't have a great visualization in my head. I do have some. I'm not aphantagic or whatever it is. Some people can't see anything in their head, which is fine. But mine are usually still images. So I wasn't really grasping how terrifying the fused are, but this has put it into stark relief.
Yes.
So I'm very much looking forward to that, as well as the fact that there are STLs. But
yeah,
you made great points in your Stormlight Miniatures video. Let's talk about the level of detail.
Let's do it.
What are we concerned about here?
Yeah, when I have my unboxing video of the Stormlight Kickstarter, I was like shaking when I got the box. I was so excited. I'd been waiting for it for like 3 months. Right. And I was like, I want to make videos, but the minis aren't here. I was so mad, but I got the box, so excited.
Yeah.
Anyway, I open it up and I start pulling them out, and I'm like, I can't see the faces and I can't really see the hands very well. And so that really brought down my excitement a little bit, because I was going in with the thought that these would be top-notch Games Workshop quality miniatures, right? Warhammer miniatures. And looking at the artwork from the Kickstarter, like the 3D renderings, those things were freaking detailed.
They are very detailed.
They're way detailed. And when you get the minis, they're in a scale, and they're at 32 millimeter scale, I believe. Mm-hmm. And they're not heroic scale. And we don't have to get into the details of that, but heroic scale basically means bigger face, bigger weapons, bigger hands. And so that's what most miniature manufacturers do, but the Brother Weiss team didn't do that. And so it really kind of was a jarring effect on me of like, I can't see the details that I wanted to see, that I thought I was going to get.
Yeah. So I expect that they had an agreement with Dragonsteel to do the artwork as close to what was agreed upon, as you know, in the miniature.
Yeah.
I guess I have a hard time with pointing out negatives, so I'm trying to balance it out. And it
is the only negative that I could say about these miniatures, by the way.
Yeah.
Everything else is amazing.
They are wonderful. So if we go back to Reaper, like I was talking about before, mm-hmm. Reaper puts out tons and tons and tons and tons of miniatures. They have Kickstarters all over the place for different lines and series that they do. Mm-hmm. Some of the miniatures are absolutely fantastic looking, and some of them are rather simple and not as detailed as you might expect mm-hmm. from just a regular mini. So they have both above average and below average. These are, to me, above average in general, but like you said, face details, especially with some of the characters in the Cosmere. I'm thinking Hoyd, Lopin, Rock maybe, and I haven't looked at the miniatures in great detail since I've got them. They are sitting in the boxes. Faces for these characters should have really defining features.
Yeah.
Hoyd is described as hawkish in every single book. Not every single book, but most of them. But when he has the same face as most of the other ones, something is lost.
Yeah.
I think the fused are going to come out really well. But at the same time, trying to get that marbling effect might be a little more difficult.
Yeah. I have yet to attempt a marbling effect. I have a couple ideas of how to try it. I've been looking up different tutorials on it, but it's going to be tricky at that level of detail. Like, they are so tiny. They are very small things. Yeah. And trying to get that intricate marbling is going to be interesting. So I didn't get the figurines like you have back there. I don't know what scale they are, but I think if I were to go back in time, I should have got those, or maybe I should just go buy them from the store, right? They're available somewhere.
They are available on Dragonsteel. So I'm not sure that they're available as an add-on in this Kickstarter, but they are available on Dragonsteel.
They are available on Dragonsteel. So I might have to pick them up just to like get the level of detail that I would expect and see. Okay. But I've never really painted anything that big besides the Chasm Fiend, and so it's kind of scary to me.
Those do come pre-painted.
They do, but I will say, as a miniature paintist, I would definitely repaint them because there's a lot I could add to them.
If you do get them, be aware that Adolin's Shardblade is very fragile.
Shame.
Yep. So mine came in the package, like the sword was like bent
oh man,
down a little bit, and I am not a smart man, so I was just like, I'm just gonna see if I can just just a little bit
Snap.
snap. Yep. Thankfully, Brotherwise is a good company, so they were like,
Yes.
I also and I've talked about this in previous episodes, not recently. I had backed the Year of Sanderson and the miniatures campaign, so the Year of Sanderson came with the tall miniature, and then the miniatures campaign also comes with a tall miniature. They didn't send me the tall miniature from the miniatures campaign,
Yeah.
but I felt like I paid for it, so I should get it. So I did. I did both get a replacement Adolin and an extra tall.
That's interesting. I asked about the tall miniature, and I never got one. I don't have one. I didn't. I asked about it. They're like, "Oh yeah, that was like only with the Year of Sanderson." So maybe you should send me your extra.
I might if they say no, I might. But that should have been with.
I might have to dig further.
Yeah,
I might have to dig further on that.
yeah. I'm gonna look that up because that's not right.
Okay.
And
Obviously, wasn't that too bummed because I didn't really look into it that hard. But
sure.
any mini is a good mini to have.
When I sent my thing, they were like, "Oh yeah, we'll get that fixed for you." And then it took 6 or 7 months for the replacements to come in.
I believe it.
6 or 7 months. Wait, hold on. I might be lying. I don't want to. I accidentally broke it in February, and the replacement came in June.
Wow.
Okay, so four-ish months, 5-ish.
I know they just recently, like a few months ago, they just finally wrapped up fulfillment.
Yes.
And I was like, wow, it's been like a year of fulfillment. That must be so stressful. Like, I think Matt is the guy from Brotherwise who's customer service.
Yeah.
I do not envy him his job during that time.
Nope. I agree. But now Dragon of Steel is fulfilling replacement parts or the replacements.
Oh, good.
You go ahead and if for some reason you're listening to this video and you backed the miniatures campaign and you're like, hey, this went wrong, contact Dragon Steel now.
Oh,
yeah, that's.
I might just ask him. Be like, hey, Tone.
Yeah, I'm looking at the stretch goals for that campaign. I'm a little angry for you.
I'm not too bummed because that would just be another model in my pile of shame up there. So
yeah, but it's actually a really good model.
And it's like the lead model on one of the books in the RPG, the Stonewalkers campaign.
Yeah, the Stonewalkers campaign.
I should probably get more serious about getting it.
Where did it? I swear it was a stretch goal. Wasn't it? Man, I might have to do more research. I don't want to take up too much time.
If you find out, let me know. Yeah. I might look for it as well.
Yeah. Because they did... Tone was its own thing.
Because he came in his own little box.
Because they did Nail, Zellion, and Risen in a box together.
They did a box of 3.
Yeah.
I got the generic shard bearer by himself.
Did I? Oh, I got that one.
I didn't get the Taln.
That's rude. I'm gonna check one more spot before I give up, and I might cut whatever is needed out. Okay. Nope, that's Stonewalkers. I don't want this one. I want from forever ago.
The original Kickstarter.
We're almost there. I'm closing in on it. Okay. Before processing your payment, you'll have the chance to purchase great add-ons like the Tom miniature.
I didn't purchase him.
You didn't?
I didn't. I purchased the Chasm Fiend, the Army Builder, and the paint set. But for some reason, I didn't purchase Taln.
Okay.
It's my own fault.
Yeah. It does seem that way. Well, okay. So I was getting bent out of shape because I did the everything.
You added them on, or you did everything. Yeah.
I did the all in, and somewhere they said for all in you get the Talm. Okay.
Now we.
Talm on Dragonsteel?
I don't know.
We're gonna find out together.
We are. I'm going to go look at my receipt from that project.
You could buy the Stormlight fan bundle. It's on sale for $5 instead of $80.
Is that the box that came with the year Sanderson?
It's got a faux leather pouch that has a Bridgeforce symbol on it. It's got the Sylphrena pin. It's got an Oathbringer bottle cap opener, and it's got 3 air fresheners. Plus, nope, it does not come with Talm. It specifically says it.
Ooh.
Not included in the fan bundle from their store.
This Taln miniature is elusive.
Okay, well, I do have an extra one, man.
Hey, if I end up at Dragonsteel Nexus in a year or two, we'll have to make a swap. Maybe I'll bring you a painted Alethi soldier or something.
There we go. That'll work. That'll do. All right, back to
the agenda.
Back to the agenda. I think next. I think we're good on minis.
Yes, very excited. I backed them. I'm very excited to get some more miniatures.
Absolutely. I did want to mention one more thing. I am a little worried. Some of the figures have really out there, like one specifically has a sword raised up in the air.
Like out here. Yeah.
I'm concerned about, because for the bigger guys, they did special metal ones, except Edelins. For
Kaladin?
Kaladin, they did metal, and Zeth's aluminum sheath is metal. And I think Yasna, I don't remember what's metal. Anyways, I'm a little worried about the straightness of some of these miniatures.
Some of the shard blades are like...
Yep. But I don't think it's going to be too worrisome.
Yeah.
But there's still a worry. Okay. Moving on to the RPG itself.
Yes.
So, I don't know how well versed you are in tabletop RPGs.
That is a great question. As I am not well versed, I played D&D a few years ago, and it was a great fun time. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
However, as a war gamer first, I would rather spend my hours doing like a war game than an RPG. So that was kind of my mentality going into it of like, what do I really want out of this Kickstarter?
Makes sense.
But I think I would still enjoy playing like as part of a RPG campaign. I just don't know if I want to put the effort to be a GM of this.
That is the issue. To be or not to be.
Yep.
That is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of trouble, and by opposing end them.
Very nice. I don't know what that was.
That was the first few lines to the To Be or Not to Be soliloquy by
Hamlet.
By Hamlet. Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you. That was. Yeah. So, I've been on a Shakespeare kick recently. I didn't understand it in high school, but I understand it now.
That's good. I do enjoy Shakespeare. I need to get back into it. My mom was really into it, so I knew some of it.
Nice. I've been reading and rereading and listening and re-listening to Julius Caesar because I really want to adapt it into a space opera writing. But that's far down the line. RPG,
Nice.
we're here.
Are you a big RPG player?
I am more than casual and very motivated.
Good.
So I've played a good bit of Dungeons and Dragons. I think though really the most like consecutive sessions I've played is as a GM. I think we did 4 or 5 sessions of a campaign that I wrote.
Nice.
Beyond that, I've done a lot of one-shots. One-shots are very appealing to me.
And one shots means like in one evening you do a whole mission.
That is correct. Yep. Although I am also down for 2 shots because that's not too much more of a commitment than a one-shot, and it's much less of a commitment than a campaign.
Yeah.
I have also played Call of Cthulhu. Mentioning Denton once again, if you're in the area, check out D20 Tavern. They have great games. You pay a cover charge, you get to play all the games you want, and then you can also pay for a seat at various tables. They have a great GM there named Mike, who runs Call of Cthulhu like every 3 months, usually during the spooky season. Call of Cthulhu, usually set in the 1920s. You slowly go insane during the game, and your goal is to not die.
That's a good goal.
But it's got a great dice system for insanity and doing the checks. Instead of rolling a D20 and checking whether you succeeded or not, you roll a D100 and see if you got above or below the number, which makes things more fun in ways. I've also played Vaesen. Somebody will correct me in the comments.
I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, I hadn't either. It is based on what's the Scandinavian folklore.
Okay.
And so they've got mythical creatures, and it also has a really interesting dice mechanic or a dice system. That was a really nice one shot we played. Also at the D20 Tavern. And beyond that, I've also run alpha tests of the Stormlight RPG.
Nice.
So, as mentioned previously, I think in one of the chapter previews, we'll be running as much of the adventures and campaign as we can on the podcast. And we will get to why in a little bit. So, the RPG. This is an interesting collaboration between making your own thing and having it be part of the canon.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, the nice thing is, as I say words as I put my mouth right in front of my hand right in front of my mouth. Brilliant. I'm smart.
That's very smart.
They have the next step, which is the first adventure for level 0 characters.
Level 0, yeah.
And they are also going to put out a solo version of it, which I plan personally to play through before running it for other people.
Yeah.
So that I can go through that experience, make my own character. Then they have Bridge 9, which if you were part of the alpha or beta testing, this was one of the adventures available to you. I ran a third of this before work got too busy and my work compatriots and I dissolved. And if you listen to, I think, 3 chapter previews ago, Trevor and I talked about, the Sandbox and I talked about the mechanics of bonding a spren, and they, to me, no complaints. They hit the nail on the head. I think it's brilliant. From a GM perspective, because I haven't played it as a player, from a GM perspective, absolutely brilliant. Good choice.
Because with the bonding the spren, right, you just take notes of like, oh, they did this thing.
That's right.
I'm going to make a note.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the campaign, Stonewalkers, the Bridge 9, and I expect Stonewalkers, they have NPC spren, Radiant spren, that you are encouraged to make bond to your character, your players' characters, because they play an important role in the story. So, and for the example here, if somebody is wanting to be a windrunner, which if statistics tell us anything, most people will want to be one.
You better be prepared with the Windrunner.
Yeah. They are going to have to bond an honor spread. And in the Bridge 9 adventure, there is an honor spread specifically that will bond with them that is already named and has a personality that the GM will be able to play off of, written. If you bond a spren not written, then that's much more up to interpretation and much more up to a conversation between the player and the GM as to how that spren will act, what their name is, and so on. They can have their own motivations and stuff. It's simple, but it's really well done. The big campaign that they're releasing, which I just noticed this earlier today, it's for levels 1 through 7 is what they say in the text of the campaign. Like on the Kickstarter, it says levels 1 through 7. And then on the book, you can see it says for levels 1 through 6. So I think they've changed that since they've made the graphic. Which is fine.
I think they first started doing 1 through 6, but maybe they added a 7th as they saw the success of the Kickstarter.
It could be. I also know they were imploring beta testers to about a month before the beta test ended, they were imploring people to go ahead and skip to higher levels so that they could test the stronger abilities and make sure that those got tested. Yeah, so Stonewalkers, that's the big sell RPG wise for this. And it's important because it is canonical. The events in this campaign actually tie in to the Wind and Truth. Well,
which is mind-boggling to me.
It's gonna be sick. I don't want to go into spoilers for that here. If you listener are thinking you might never play the campaign as a player, or if you know you're going to be your party's GM and you want to know more about this campaign, go read the update they had specifically for it, because they go into the specifics of what makes it canonical. The general premise of the campaign is what happened to Talon's sword after Words of Radiance, which is brilliant. And then there's some other canonical things that happen that they talk about in that update. So go read that. We're not going to spoil it here. But they also, as a stretch goal, which we'll talk about stretch goals in a minute too, they added Showdown in Shadesmar, which is going to be a higher level adventure written not only for the Stormlight RPG, but also playable by Mistborn characters in the future. Mm-hmm. Because it's not just the Stormlight RPG anymore. They
lied to us.
They lied. They keep doing that.
Cosmere RPG.
All of them have bonded Cryptic Spren.
Yes.
They're all like
lies.
Delicious lies.
Delicious lies.
Oh my gosh. Delicious. Man, they did a good job keeping that under wraps.
They really did. Yes.
It blew my mind. I immediately texted Griff and I was like, holy storm.
Well, I recorded myself opening up the email. Like, I took the day off of work on August 6th because I was like, I'm going to record this as soon as it comes out.
That's awesome.
And like, I opened it up and I was like, I think you could see it on my face. I was in shock a little bit. I was like, wait a minute. This is a Cosmere RPG.
That's amazing. That's so cool. Nice. Good choice.
Yes, it was fun.
Brilliant. I'm looking forward to all of these adventures. I'm looking forward to running them. I'm looking forward to running them on our podcast because I think for those of you who want to experience the story in a somewhat authentic way, for the Stonewalkers campaign specifically, reading through the campaign book will get you the story. It's not going to get you the story in a cinematic way. So you can go look at they have the beta playtest for at least one of the adventures, I think
Bridge 9. Yeah.
Available on DriveThruRPG, I believe for free. And you can go see what it looks like to read through an adventure where there will be some blurbs about what's happening in the world around them right that moment. It might suggest what an NPC is going to say. It'll have various scenarios for what happens if your players act one way versus this other way. It's not as cinematic as reading a book or listening to an audiobook, but I think what we're going to do on our channel is play through it in a way that will make it cinematic. So you can enjoy the story. It's going to come out well after Wind and Truth. So the reason I say that is the Stonewalkers campaign directly ties into what happens in Wind and Truth. We don't know how. We don't need to spoil it. We're not going to spoil it. We don't know how that happens. So, but at a later date, when you're hurting for some Stormlight, you're like, oh man, I wish Hornier would come out, or I wish Book 6 would come out, and you've waited 5 years. Well, come by, listen to the Stonewalkers campaign. We'll fill in some of those missing gaps.
And I think that's the thing with RPGs that's why people do it, is because it is about storytelling. And so it's a perfect match with Brandon Sanderson's. He's all about telling stories. Absolutely. And so making an RPG of where he gets to let his fans create their own stories, I think it's brilliant. And I'm very excited to see. I'll probably tune in to your walkthrough, which will be great, your playthrough.
Yeah, that will be great. And an added thing there, we are going to have, we're going to be serious about it. Like a lot of people, I won't say a lot. My experience with D&D is that really new players, when they're playing for the first time, they might not take it as seriously. They might not realize how fun it is to get really into character, not necessarily do voices or anything, but like really buy into the scenario that's happening before them. But we're going to try our best to make sure that we're playing it as if it was intense and serious.
With that in mind, I'm thinking about when I want to play it with some local guys here. None of them are Cosmere fans. None of them have played an RPG before. And I'm thinking about making a quick little video about like, here's what you need to know coming into this. And one of the sections will be get into character. Yeah. And that is how you're going to have fun, right? Absolutely. You have to get into character and just like embody them. And then you can really start seeing, this is quite enjoyable to experience.
And you may not be aware, there's a person whose name is Matt Colville, and he is the creator of MCDM Productions, which initially started out as a sort of D&D 5e third-party creator company making extra bits for D&D. Okay. They've since made their own RPG that's coming out. I think it was kickstarted something. It's called Draw Steel. It's very cinematic. But Matt Colville, has a YouTube channel, and he has put out probably over 100 videos on how to run a game. Not necessarily D&D, but mostly D&D. But one of those videos is how to be a good player. And nice. After I was not a good player, and that same friend Alex introduced me to that video, I became a good player. So that is another resource for all of you GMs wishing desperately that people at your table would take you seriously. Send them that video and say, hey, this is something you need to watch before you play at my table.
Yeah.
It's really well done and in not a holish way.
I like that because I think coming into it, a player might be like, they may have never experienced it. They don't know what's going to happen, and they may brush it off. But the GM spends a lot of time to get ready for it. And like they spend a lot of investments of their time and stuff. So I don't know, just like reciprocating that care goes a long way.
It does. It does. Absolutely. Now, there's a neat thing that they've done that you can access right this moment.
Yes.
And that is Demiplane. And Demiplane is a character builder where you can, at this moment, build a character for a Stormlight campaign. It will take you through the character creation. It will offer options for what your character might look like. You'll be able to pick backgrounds, ancestries, skills, and so on in a very user-friendly way. At the moment, there's one of the things is not really fleshed out, which is not a big deal. It's expertises, and the utility expertises aren't fleshed out, so I was a little confused about how far you could go saying something was a utility expertise. For instance, they gave things like animal care. What else did they put? Medical treatment, mental health care, so on. That's a small gripe. Because at the moment you don't really need that. You can talk with your GM if you're doing a beta test run right now. But go check it out. I checked it out this morning. I was impressed. I'm looking forward to using it. It generates a character sheet. Have you had any experiences with virtual tabletop?
When I did the D&D game, I was remote, and so my GM sent me a way to do it online. It was really nice to just be like, oh yeah, I rolled this dice, or I played this test. So it really helps out new players, especially.
Absolutely. Yeah, and the nice thing is that Brotherwise is working to get as many options for virtual tabletop as they can, so that if you back it and you choose the digital options, which I expect are in your video about the offerings in the campaign. So again, go watch that video if you haven't yet. If you're not sure what you want to back, he's got spreadsheets, guys. He's got spreadsheets.
There's spreadsheets.
So I think Brotherwise is doing their best and succeeding at being flexible and what's the word? Generous? Not generous, but they're doing a really
accommodating.
Good job. Accommodating. That's the word. Thank you.
You're welcome.
They're doing a great job at being accommodating. So, but what are your thoughts here on the RPG?
Yeah, so I talk about it in my video of when the Kickstarter first came out. I was like, I'm going to go all in. This is amazing. Like, this is right up my alley, right? This is Cosmere in miniature RPGs. You have miniatures. But the more I thought about it, and that's my thing with Kickstarter, is I'd never go in for the early bird pricing if they have it, right? I take my time to think about it.
Smart.
And so I basically wrote myself a little essay of my thought process of like, okay, what do I really want out of this? What will bring the most value to me? And I decided to just do the world guides because that will really support my desire to make some dioramas, right? I need some visual depictions of what's going on in the Cosmere.
Absolutely.
And I think these books are going to be chock full of that. Like that's the most exciting part about it. And then of course the miniatures, right? I have to get the miniatures. And so the RPG books, there's the handbook, and then there's the Stonewalkers campaign. I decided, and the Mistborn, whatever those will look like. I decided to not back those just because it is probably recency bias from my time playing Warhammer, Age of Sigmar. I had just purchased like 2 rule books for different armies, and then they came out with a new version, and my rule books are invalid. And so I was like, I just spent $100 on rule books that I can't use. And I have, it's the biggest gripe with Warhammer for sure. And so their rule book sprawl is, I mean, they're a company, they're trying to make money. Not saying that this will happen with this RPG, but I was burned recently and I'm like, I don't need to be burned right now. I'll get it when it comes out on retail if I need to.
I think that's really wise. I think that's smart. Sanderson has shown time and time again that he is more responsible and caring about his customers,
Yes,
us consumers, than a typical company and or person. But like you said, rulebook sprawl, this is a living RPG.
yeah.
It's hard to imagine a timeline where 3 or 4 years from now, they finally released the Elantris and Nalthis rulebooks. Oh, and also there's an update for the Stormlight ones now that we've had 5 years.
Yeah, 100%. And I think even if it's like an FAQ, like Warhammer does these FAQ documents where a day after they release the book, they're like, oh yeah, here's 2 pages worth of stuff you have to go in and like either marker out and rewrite it. And it's just like, it drives me nuts. But anyway,
Wow.
When we play with rule books, that's what we have to deal with because it's a living RPG. Like you said, the rules are going to be changing as they get more people in it and find holes.
Yeah. This is, and the cause, like, if you go listen to our episodes or anybody who does discussion about what if there was an Alamancer versus a Shard Bearer? We've all had these discussions, like,
Yes.
And people have asked Sanderson straight up, like, and Sanderson's been like, oh, there's more investiture in one Shard Blade than there is in an Alamancer that's fully powered up. Like, how is that? What?
How is that going to pan out? Yeah.
Right. So it's probably pretty smart they started with Stormlight. It lends itself to action with the military bits. In the books, the miniatures have enough variety of design. And it is also, like, they're the most powerful characters, right? Beyond Elantrians and... we're not going to go into the secret projects, but Elantrians.
Yes.
So smart of them to start probably higher middle of the pack and then figure out how Mistborn, Nalthis, Warbreaker and the Breaths. Warbreaker and the Breaths. That's a good band name.
That is a really good band name. You got to write that down. Warbreakers and the Breaths.
Warbreakers and the Breaths.
Well, I mean, I think there could be like I don't know, like an arena of some kind, or like a made up arena where it's like, okay, you bring the stats from your different worlds and you meet in Shadesmar, and it's like, all right, here's the rules, here's a playing field, duel. You know, it's like they could go somewhere down that route.
I imagine people will. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's like you have to do that.
You do have to do that. I think I was talking with Griff about this either on the podcast or not. The Cosmere is ripe for storytelling that is not just focused on combat. Mm-hmm. So, like, yeah, cool that a fifth ideal Knight Radiant is going to own almost everybody. If they were to fight, but like that's typically not the point of Sanderson's stories.
Yeah,
there's really cool action. Don't get me wrong. Words of Radiance, we all love White Spine Uncaged and To Kill the Wind chapters, which I believe are 57 and 58, followed directly by The First Time We Meet Lift, which is a really long chapter.
Yes.
I've listened to those parts too many times.
I skip that part now. Whenever I reread it, I'm like, oh, skip.
Do you really?
I skip the lift parts. Yeah.
Oh, the lift part. Yeah. Okay. I was like, how can you skip? And for my boon,
No, that is. Oh yeah, I have an idea for a diorama for that very scene. I'm stoked. Very excited.
Now I'm excited for
Yeah.
your diorama.
Yes.
That's
Check back again in like 2 years when I finally get around to doing it.
heck yes, dude. Yeah. So, but rulebook sprawl is going to be an issue. I think it's probably going to be less of an issue with Sanderson stuff than it is with D&D and Warhammer.
Yeah. And those books are going to be filled with artwork, right? I'm going to be missing out on that initial artwork. And the stuff they released is like, man, this stuff is amazing. So getting the books, like I could get them, but I'm just like, hey, I'm going to push the brakes a little bit. But if you're getting the books, I think you're going to be very well pleased with the quality that you're going to get.
I think so too. Even and then there's a couple of stretch goals that specifically apply to the physical books.
Yeah,
that's exciting. So I think that was a pretty good segue into stretch.
That was really good. Really good.
If I hadn't mentioned that it was a segue into stretch goals, but we're
missed opportunity.
Real. My words don't work sometimes. Stretch goals. Tell me about your ideas about these stretch goals.
Yeah. So I think I'm trying to remember that the initial goal to get kickstarted, to get funded, was like $250,000.
It was.
By the time I opened it up, 15 minutes after it had kickstarted, it was like 3 times over that, right? It was already at like 600,000.
Yep. Yeah.
And I'm like, there's no way that they are not ready with stretch goals.
Absolutely.
Like they had everything planned.
They did.
But I do think it went over what they were expecting. And so I kind of like, I felt that there was a little bit of a shift. I don't know when exactly that happened, but I was like, okay, this stretch goal seems like it wasn't really pre-planned. Like maybe like, oh, here's an extra plot dice in this color. It's like, you just came up with that yesterday. You know, it's like.
that was the Void Light dice when they were like, this dice is only for this campaign. Like, you did come up with this off of a comment saying, are you going to have Void Light dice?
Yeah.
I'm here for it. That's fine.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. So the stretch goals here are a wonderful hodgepodge of different aspects.
Yes.
So
it's really, a great variety. I love the variety.
Regardless of what you back, probably your purchase has been influenced by the stretch goals. We're not going to go over every single one. They are available still to see on the Kickstarter page. I did want to point out, I think we should talk about our favorites, as well as ones that we feel are like, is that really a stretch goal?
Yes, I love it.
So out of the like 20 stretch goals, which are some of your favorites?
I would have to go with the STL files for the miniatures. I think that is just based on what I've experienced printing out my own guys and like being able to modify them and not worry about of messing out a one-of-a-kind miniature. That gets me really excited because I'm like, okay, I can print out like 10 fused, maybe make some changes to them, modify them a little bit, and I have an army of fused attacking my guys, you know? So the STL files, and of course, I'm Cosmere miniature. I have to be excited about that, and I am.
Yeah, that's good. I really like... I was not planning on liking it as much as I do. I didn't even notice that they put little Ks for the things that are Kickstarter exclusive.
Oh yeah,
I didn't notice that on the stretch goals they have a little green K. But the things that I really like are actually the things that make the physical books even more appealing to get during this campaign, which feels a little shillish to say in this video. Like I want to parrot Sanderson's words, like, if you can't afford it, you can't afford it, and that's okay. It will be available in the future, except for the fact that these are Kickstarter exclusives, so they won't be unless somebody's selling them. So take it with a grain of salt. Anyways, the gilded edges for the physical books,
Chef's kiss.
the Stormlight dice bag, and the slip cases,
Yeah.
those and the extra fused miniatures were the things that I was most excited about.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, you go ahead.
I was going to say the slip cases, like when those came out, they were near the end, I think. And I was like, oh, I already decided that I'm not going to do the three sets, but the slip cases, like that just reminds me of growing up. I had the Lord of the Rings extended trilogies, the extended trilogy in the slip cases.
Oh, the movies?
The movies on DVD, right?
Yes. I've got those. I got that for Christmas from my stepsister once, and I told her she never has to get me a gift again.
Yes.
I was so ecstatic about that. It was the extended. Anyways.
They're beautiful. So I'm just like, oh, that would have been so cool to have on my shelf, just the slip cases. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. I am conflicted about almost all of the card stretch goals.
Oh, yes.
The condition cards, the event cards, the spren cards, the initiative cards are... Forget what I just said. The initiative cards, I really like.
You like them?
The reason being is because they are a simple indicator for the GM to be able to see who's doing what. Even when, because we're obviously going to play virtual for when we do it on the podcast, I can have my however many players I can have their names out here, and I can put an initiative card down for each of those.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so, nice. That is something.
It's a great tool for the GM.
Yes.
Yeah. Utility. Very, very true.
I'll also say for the GM, the condition cards for that exact same thing that I mentioned, I am a little worried that it is just one of each.
Yeah.
I expect that they're double-sided and there's like multiples of each, because it says a set of 16 condition cards, and I don't think there's 16 conditions. There's probably like 6 or 8, and then they're doubled. I am like, I don't want to have to. I'm not going to buy 2 sets of that, or I'm not going to add on 2 sets of that. Or I guess that would be.
Yeah.
I wouldn't buy another set of plot decks just to get the extra condition cards, just so I could have one for each of my players.
Yeah.
The event cards, I'm sure will be useful, especially for the GM. The spren cards, I mentioned this when I was talking with Trevor in that one chapter preview.
Yeah, I remember you talking about it.
Yeah, if you have people that are gonna be the same Knight Radiant, then like you can't just hand out the card to one of them and be like, "Here's your light spren."
The other guy doesn't get a light spren.
Yeah,
You don't get a card this time.
yeah, it's neat.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily something that would have inspired me to make a different purchase when it came out.
Yeah. I think a lot of those, the cards and stuff, again, I'm looking at it from the artistic perspective of like, it would be really cool to get like Shallan's notebook or whatever in color, like on the card. Right. I'm hoping that maybe they have these same pictures in a book and like a couple pages of like, oh, here's in the world guide, here are 3 pages of the spren. And it's just like bigger images of what's on the cards, right?
Makes sense.
That could be something, right?
I expect so. I will say the plot die, the life light and the void light, solid. So when we were alpha testing this, it didn't feel. It's a D20 system, but it didn't feel like straight D&D because of the plot die. The plot die added so much depth.
And you roll the plot die like at every. You only do it at like big moments, right?
I think it's when you do skill tests. and or attacks.
Because the user or the player can be like, this is a big moment for me. I want to add the plot die, even if it might hurt me.
I think you're right.
Complication.
Like, yeah. And so you get the success with a complication, or you get a failure with I'm blending all of it together, but regardless, however the actual thing works, it ended up adding so much depth to what was happening with my players that it didn't feel like for those of you who don't want it to feel like a war game, which I know I'm not talking to the choir here, because you want it to feel like a war game.
It has to be a war game.
If you want it to feel cinematic, the plot die that they've introduced here, I don't know where they got it. If they made it up off the tops of their heads, that's amazing. If they got it from somewhere else, excellent theft. It's really worth it. It is such a good aspect to make it feel like it's happening in the book. It's so cool.
That's awesome. I think what that reminds me of what you talked about there is in like a war game in Warhammer Age of Sigmar is the one I mainly play. It's all about lining up things to have really good modifiers to your roll, because Warhammer is a D6 system. There's not much you can do with 6 options. In a D20 system, I haven't played much in that, but I'm thinking in Warhammer, you're like, okay, I'm going to line up my guys like this, and then so that I can get this +2 modifier to really hurt the enemy, right? To really make good damage. So I think the plot die really adds that. It gives you control as a player to be like, I want to make this count, and I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna make the risk. I'm gonna set it up to roll the plot die.
Absolutely. The other things they've put in as stretch goals are PDF and or book based. They've added a lot, adversary, adventure scenarios, Mistborn scenarios. Go take a look at it. It's pretty cool. They did a good job with their stretch goals. That's what I'll say. In general, some of them were like, well, all right, that's a stretch goal, I guess. In general, I think they did really well. So these next 2 parts, we're going to talk about Backerkit and fulfillment. For those who aren't well versed in this and haven't looked at the Kickstarter page every day for the last month and a half, like I have. So, of course, Kickstarters take a while, usually, except if you're Sanderson with a warehouse full of Words of Radiance, leather bounds already. But so it should be coming to Backerkit, I think, next month, and it's going to be available there, I believe, through October and November. But if you're considering backing it, probably get there in October, because I might be wrong about the November bit. I'm hoping this video comes out early next week, in which case you'll still be able to late pledge on the Kickstarter. If you're unsure of what you want to do, I don't know if you have to pledge $1 to be able to get into the Backerkit Pledge Manager. You might consider doing that just to play it safe, or read the comments and see if somebody else has asked that question. I did not do enough due diligence there to be able to tell you with any kind of authority what's going on, other than soon it's going to be moving to Backerkit. You might need to buy the dollar thing to be able to go in there and edit your pledges. The PDFs are coming early spring next year. What does that mean for you? If you get the books, the physical books, you get the PDF copy, I think. Is that what it is?
Yes. If you get physical, you do get the books.
Yeah.
I'll double check.
And then, or if you just straight buy the PDFs, the Stormlight ones will be coming to you early spring, and they are going to be fulfilled through Drive-Thru RPG, which, from my couple of interactions, is a nice, simple-to-use website. And then this physical rewards for the Stormlight portion are going to come late 2025. Now, Josh, I don't remember exactly when they said that the Stormlight miniatures from the miniatures campaign would ship.
Oh yeah, I do. It was, they were supposed to ship August 2023, I believe. So it's like at the end of summer, they were supposed to start fulfilling.
And when,
I think the first people started getting them in November and December. I didn't get mine until January.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Because they had just started sending emails regarding shipping labels the week of Dragonsteel Nexus. Well, it was just Dragonsteel 20.
Oh yeah. The
So I ended up,
shipping emails, those were the
yeah,
worst. It's
they
like, it's
were.
being ready. And I'm like, where is it?
Yeah. Mine came in 3 days before Christmas. So that
Wow.
was nice.
Merry Christmas to you.
I think it did, didn't it? Yeah, it was Merry Christmas to me.
Oh man, I was so bummed. I got mine after, like right after the winter break
Yeah.
from work. Like I had 2 weeks off from work and I was like, where's my minis? I want to do something.
Hey,
Yeah.
that's rough, buddy. Yeah, mine came in and I was like, I don't feel confident enough to paint any of these right now. So, what was I doing? I was painting something else. Anyways, that doesn't matter. So, they say physical rewards are going to come late 2025, and we know during the time that they were making the Stormlight miniatures, they were already working on this campaign. They were already working on the rule books. Of course, playtesting happened earlier this year and late last year. Was it late last year? It doesn't matter. How do we feel like fulfillment's going to go this time?
We kind of mentioned at the beginning of our chat, but I don't have doubts that they will fulfill. And I could see their Stormlight miniatures Kickstarter as a really good learning experience and a really good trial run from Dragonsteel to be like, okay, here's what it's actually like to ship miniatures. And so now I think they're much more confident this time around.
I agree. And having Dragonsteel do it instead of Easy Ship, no brainer for those in the US. Obviously, they're not going to ship overseas for that. Dragonsteel's not. They're going to
have third parties.
People.
Yeah.
I think they're finding other people than Easy Ship. Probably smart.
Mm-hmm.
For the
I know.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to mention, I know there are a few people in like comments or on like the Brotherwise Discord who are very vocal about, I'm never going to back a Brotherwise thing again. And I would, if any of you are listening to this, reconsider your words. I think this is going to be very successful.
I completely agree with that. I occasionally haunt the Brotherwise Discord. Very interesting characters in there.
Yes. I usually just hang out in the Stormlight Minis channel. Yeah, it's like that's all I need in my life.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
I like to give people encouragement because a lot of people are like, "This is my first mini." I'm like, "That's so awesome! Good job! Keep working on it."
So, yeah, that's really important. Encouraging and inspiring others.
Yes,
that's what we need more of in the world. So props to you.
Thank you.
The Mistborn PDFs will come early 2026 and then physical Mistborn late 2026. Honestly, probably going to forget about it between now and then.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
On my door, and it'll be great. No,
it'll be a great day.
We'll get tons of emails. Although between now and the fulfillment of the Mistborn physical rewards, there are likely going to be 4 other crowdfunding campaigns from Sanderson. Because he said
which ones?
He doesn't want to do any more than 2 a year. So we're going to have whatever the next leatherbound for Mistborn Era 2. I think they've only done Alloy of Law, so it would be Shadows of Self.
Okay.
They'll do the crowdfunding for that. And then the next year they'll do... it'll either be Oathbringer or it'll be 10th anniversary of something else, or some other anniversary of something else of a leatherbound, or of a book they haven't done leatherbound of yet. So there's that. As for other Kickstarters,
do we think it's going to be Mistborn minis?
Ooh, yes.
Or would that go straight to retail?
That's a good question. Honestly,
I hope it's a Kickstarter.
I bet it's going to be a Kickstarter. The Mistborn deck building pre-orders go live October 1st, and retail hits November 7th, if I remember correctly. I'm going to pick that up ASAP.
I'm pretty sure I will too.
And what I'm hoping is that some of the artists that did art for it will be at Dragonsteel Nexus, and I'll take those cards and I'll get them signed. That would be cool.
Yes, you will.
Yeah, that would be very cool. And then, but I do expect, because they are, of course, they haven't said explicitly that they're going to do miniatures for Mistborn. I don't think they've said it explicitly.
They haven't said explicitly. I think I've seen it in comments somewhere, or maybe online. Anyway,
somebody recently asked.
Yeah, I think. I mean, potentially another Kickstarter. I've heard Johnny mention a few times from Brotherwise basically a war game of some kind, which is comparable to Star Wars Rebellion, I think, or Lord of the Rings, something. Anyway, that little tidbit, I'm very excited to see how that fleshes out.
That would be like a miniatures war game, or like
it. I don't know. Like, he hasn't given any details at all. He just said it's in the works of more of an epic version of, instead of like single characters walking around in RPGs, it's going to be like armies. I don't know if it's going to be a board game, kind of like Risk-esque, or if it's going to be a war game with tabletop.
Risk Shattered Plains.
I've actually wrote out some rules for a Shattered Plains game.
Ooh,
but
nice.
I didn't take it anywhere. It's such a cool, like, Shattered Plains is what hooked me on Stormlight. Okay. It's what hooked me.
What do you think made the Shattered Plains?
Like in the lore?
Yeah.
I don't know. I remember you guys were talking about that on one of your episodes.
That's why I'm bringing it up.
Yes. Honestly, I just imagined some giant something just like stepped really hard and it like shattered everything, but that's probably not it.
That's probably not it, but it might be it.
It might be it. Some giant spren just came out of nowhere, or an asteroid. But it's like all symmetrical. That's the other thing that Shallan discovered. It's symmetrical.
Right. Okay. But going off of that, in the cymatics from Way of Kings, where whatever his face is, the Ardent that was trying to use Shallan to get to Yasna. Capsule was doing that whole cymatics thing, and then there's the sand and the vibrating plates.
Yes.
And things. But then we know that investiture can be sound, right? Like the sound make, right? So
the rhythm of war, right?
Right, exactly. So whatever made the Shattered Plains, if it did it symmetrically like that, it had to have been something with investiture, right? Like,
probably. I mean, it takes days and weeks to travel across to get to the middle of it. It has to be a huge force of power that did that.
So I'm thinking it's either that's where Odium killed Honor, or that's where Ba Edo Mishram was destroying the world accidentally when they captured her.
Yes. Well, whoever did it, whatever happened, it is a fantastic place to do a war game. Like, it is built to war game. I'm just saying.
That's smart. I think a novel board game would be a sweet spot for that kind of thing. Because the buy-in would be lower.
Yeah.
I would love to do that.
Because you could have like modular pieces, like maybe Settlers of Catan, except instead of hexagons, it's like just lay them out there, and you have your bridges, you have your bridgement. Anyway, I don't know how it's going to turn out, but I'm excited.
Because then you could we don't need to go on too far. We don't need to go on too far tonight. But you could set up adventures based on, okay, now there's a gem heart, there's a chrysalis on the tower.
Yeah.
Oh, dude,
go forth.
Sick. That would be sick.
Yes.
Well, man, that's great. Yeah, but I think the Mistborn miniatures will be a Kickstarter. They said they're still working on the Stormlight campaign. They don't want to, or the Cosmere RPG campaign. They're going to get that all figured out before they start working on the Mistborn miniatures. So nothing concrete, but we know it's coming. That one I'm a little more concerned about for the features, like we were talking about, especially because like you have people in mist cloaks, you have Inquisitors, and then then you jump to Era 2 and you have people in Westkits and dresses, right? Like, I guess you have Terracemen and
you could do Colas and
do Mist Wraiths.
Mist Wraiths. I mean, I don't know. I get most excited about like the average Joe. Like, okay, what does a ska rebel look like? What does a what are they called? The soldiers, what they're called, Luthadel soldiers look like, right?
Okay, yeah.
So, but again, I come from the wargaming perspective.
Sure, that makes sense.
Like, what would an army look like on the tabletop?
That makes sense. That's very exciting. So, we've talked about a lot. We've talked about Cosmere RPG at length. If you're considering backing, do it sooner than later. Don't want to miss out. If you can't back, these things will mostly be available after the fact, especially the PDFs. It's pretty much all you need to get planned. But what are you looking forward to the most out of everything?
Honestly, the world guides. Okay. The canonical, the canon lore and pictures, the reference guides that those will be for any artist or any miniaturist who wants to build scenery to go along with the RPG. Like, I think those are going to be invaluable resources. Absolutely.
Completely agree.
How about you?
I am looking forward to I think and this is solipsistic. I am looking forward to the Stonewalkers campaign because I can't wait to choose what voices are going to go with which characters.
You're good at voices, Alex. You're good at it.
I try my best. I think I need to lean into them a little bit more so that they come across the mic just that much more clearer. But that's something I've been giving a lot of thought to. So I'm excited about that and the story and the story bits that are coming through that, because I have read what they've put out, and oh my honor, like just I wasn't expecting it, and they still beat my expectations. Like, so good. So
it's very exciting times to be a Sanderson fan. That's for sure.
Yeah. I was about to compare it to vegan cheese, but that is not going to go very well with the audience. That's a niche thing. I'm going to do it anyways. 2012, horrible time for vegan cheese, dairy-free cheese. Nowadays, oh my God, it's a new world. If you're dairy-free for whatever reason, tons of people are lactose intolerant, give it a try. There's so many brands with different ways of doing things. Things melt better now. They taste actually like cheese. It's not just weird plasticky taste anymore. It's what a time to be alive. What a time. And eating dairy-free cheese. Okay. With that, I think we're good.
Yeah.
As you hopefully know, if you listen to our episodes, Josh, if you listen to our episodes through all the way, you know how they end. Griff's not going to do his bit, but I'm going to say the first two little things, and then you say the last one, right?
I think I remember. I remember what I'm supposed to do. Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay.
I certainly will, and we'll cut it out and try again. So, life before death, strength before weakness,
miniatures before destination.
Very nice.
Was that it? Did I do it?
That was it. I'm going to end the recording now.